What I was saying is, I kept having failures in my businesses also because I would say I was blaming the talent also.
Right.
But sometimes it takes time to develop people. With my housing project thing, one, it's a vision. It's a passion that I have that I want to work on and finish and what. So I've worked on it for 4 years now.
It is our job, those of us who have been exposed, to train our group.
Thank you very much.
That's what it is, okay?
Thank you.
A lot of the brothers in the African diaspora that have lived abroad have done well. They're not coming back here to suffer like that. I'm gonna be real.
Nope.
We gotta be honest. Hold on, let me say this. I feel like a lot of the brothers that have went to America, had to work their ass off, go to college, they saved up a lot of money. When they come back to Uganda, listen.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. This is the Repart podcast. My name is Johnny Tamaya and I am joined by Brian Mwafrika and Agava, Mr. Gabs. And a little bit about Brian. Brian was born in Uganda, moved to the US when he was 18, lived in the US for 12 years, got married to an African American, moved back to Uganda when he was 30 in 2017. Oshay, take this one.
So this is going to be a little bit of our interesting podcast. I'm an African American living in Uganda. The question is, foreigners, foreign blacks, or foreigners at all, from those who are from the diaspora, like you, Agaba, versus somebody who never had any ties to Uganda, who is it that has an advantage in doing business in the market and finding talent for the business? And what are some of the challenges that you face in the business, and how do you try to deal with those businesses?
I think a Ugandan who lived there, came back, would have an advantage. But the African American would struggle mainly because of culture. Culture dictates a lot about people. A lot of business has to do with the culture around the people, because the labor that you're going to employ has a certain culture. If you go to Ethiopia, they at midday everybody goes to lunch. They don't come back until 2. In Uganda, that's not something. You get what I mean? So those difficulties will make it harder for somebody from the US to come and do business here versus who has never been here, an African American, versus one from here, goes there, comes back.
Okay. Let me get a guy's take on that.
I think you're absolutely right on that topic of culture. I think another thing is, how reliant are you upon systems to work around you in a way that you understand based on the business that you're trying to get into. I think contextualizing that matters a lot. If you're in a space where you're highly reliant upon, systems to work in order for it to make your job easy, coming in as a foreigner, it's going to be very challenging.
Right.
Somebody who understands the systems and the limitations therein and understands how to work the system in their favor. I think having that context of understanding it. So I would say chances are a person who has been here, went abroad, and come back has a better chance to succeed. But that's not a solid rule. I wouldn't stick to that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not really that solid, because they also struggle. Most especially if you live in the US for like 10 years, Uganda develops so fast and changes so fast.
Good point.
That if you're out 10 years and you come here, the system will kind of shock you.
Right.
Lots of
You'll
changes.
be like, what? Me, it was easier. Even before I moved, I literally would come and be 3 to 4 months running whatever business I was running at the time. Running it, doing what, going to all places. And it was very challenging still, because there's a certain cultural aspect to it. Somebody indigenous who never even went to the US, if they had the same capital that I had, I think they would have succeeded a lot faster than me. Because
they're here.
There's certain things that they know not to do.
Okay.
I also think, sorry, O'Shea, but
go ahead.
I also think that somebody who has entrepreneurial experience abroad coming here to set up a business is entirely different than saying, leaving corporate employment
Right.
to come
right,
here
yep.
and this be your first
Great point.
entrepreneurial venture here.
Great point.
Because somebody who has experience building a business abroad understands how to set up an opportunity for scalability.
Right. Great point.
So you understand the controls and the management systems and how to recruit and hire and manage the human resource around a vision and a plan for growth, as opposed to somebody who is trying it for the first time, who may be figuring it out as they go along.
Great point.
So there's so many nuances to that. I don't really think that there's a clear answer to that question.
Yeah.
I have a clear answer.
Wait,
Okay.
I want to piggyback on Gabs' point before we move to O'Shea. Just also say someone who's been doing like a 9 to 5 in the States, just jumping into the entrepreneurship journey in Uganda.
No.
Like
No.
that's just
No.
You
you're
don't
just
have a chance.
jumping
Don't
off a
even-
cliff,
Don't have a
literally.
chance.
Because if you didn't start entrepreneurship there, like he said, you know how to hire people, you know what to do, you know how to scale the business. When you start afresh from here with no knowledge of, ever trying this out,
Right.
yeah, it's rough out here.
Yeah. And then you also would need to be pretty good in the industry that you're already coming from to here. But here is what I've noticed about Ugandan entrepreneurs that I'm highly critical of. And this is and I hope I don't get beat on the street or anything. They overextend themselves too much. So a Ugandan business owner, as a foreigner, I'm coming in with my one business that I know. That's the one that I know. I don't know poultry. I don't know anything else. So I have to be good at that which I do know. That's the only shot I got. I've never met a Ugandan business owner that is just in one business and he's strong in that one business. There are several businesses. There is no way a person can compete with me if you're in 4 businesses. I'm going to kick your ass. You have no chance against me. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you're in 4 different industries and you have a wife and you're married and you have kids, and then you have the proclivity to want to go into another business, a lot of guys in Africa chase money and don't chase opportunity. And it's hard to beat somebody who's chasing the opportunity, that one opportunity, what they understand, and building a business in the industry they're in that might be a lateral move. A lot of African business owners that come from the diaspora, because they do know the environment or they believe they know the environment, they feel like, oh, well, I need to get in this. This is the income. And if that one goes bad, then I have that income, not necessarily not being good at any of those businesses at all. And a lot of those guys are not good at and I'm not trying to say this to be mean. They have a full-time job somewhere, a business over here, a business over there, a business over there. Maybe they want to be a big man or be seen as a big guy. I don't know.
So I can actually talk on that because I own, as I said, 4 businesses.
Most guys own 5 or 6.
So
Before I even get there, I had a guy tell me, a prominent guy, you're too focused on that one business. You need to by now be on your 10th business.
teeth, what's teeth? Be?
10.
1 0.
Oh, 10.
10.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? Enoch was there with me that day. He's like, oh, it's 8 or 9. You're too, but I'm like, okay, this is how guys think here.
In my opinion, the reason why sometimes you end up doing so many businesses is because first is the rate of failure for some. And also the margin of profit that you get on each business. In Uganda, if you are to kind of not try to drive the business to give you so much profit that you can survive on, you have to kind of diversify. You have something coming from here, something coming from here, something coming from here. You get what I mean? Now, I imported used clothes. That was one of the businesses I first started, which was an importation business. Now, I did that mainly for money.
Yeah.
Now, down the road, I could see that it's not a future business in a country like this because I could see how the government looks at it.
Right.
But now, when I did a bar because you think, oh, you see guys drinking, bars will work, what. It also had its real hard things, Then I've also done a farm. We had a farm with my friends. It also had its difficulties and stuff like that. Now, the one thing that I knew that I was good at was engineering. That's what people know me for. So that's when I personally focused. Let me do houses, but I have experience in all these other entities, and I went with them to give me the money. Now as I develop a concept. It's so hard to develop a new concept in Uganda, most especially around business. And yet you'll end up doing like everybody else and you'll struggle. That's the opportunity you're talking about. Like to chase that opportunity. Like in the housing market, there's an opportunity for modular houses, let me say.
Yeah.
Now, me, I'm chasing that. Other people don't look at that because the business they're centered on is, I want to get money now and tomorrow.
Or survival.
And they end up, having
But you'd be
many.
surprised at how many people from the Ugandan diaspora, African American diaspora, think just like this. And I want to offer another criticism that I can know out of African diaspora. A lot of brothers and sisters go to America or London and do very well. And when they come back, it's almost like they forgot, maybe because they're back in the environment that they're in now, what they were doing there. Whereas a foreigner like myself, we don't know any other way. This is the way that we do know. And we only know that way. So even if we struggle and if we're in that one business, if we can stay in the business, over time, a foreigner will be able to do, I say he has an advantage because if I'm trying to find talent for one business, like we have a guy that brings our stuff here, I won't call his name out. Great business, right? But, he's had problems on his farm, loses people a lot, but because he's overextended. And what I do, I'm not overextended. I mean, I'm overworked, but I'm not overextended. So the business keeps getting better because I keep doing the same thing repetitively. Now, if I had a farm, if I had real estate, I would be terrible at everything because there's no way to source all of that.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
And
I see that happening with so many business owners from the diaspora.
But you see, the other thing too is the capital, the availability of capital to start those other businesses. In Uganda, the people you're talking to are probably belong to like 0.01% of the population in terms of how much this income they have.
Let's leave the conversation for that because this is more of a diaspora event. So
So when you have that much capital, end up tinkering with almost everything. And people here don't do business as like they went to business school and they understand business and they're going to focus on. No, business is just it's like a gig. I'm getting extra money from here.
Okay.
When somebody comes from the US and they're coming here to do a business,
right?
And if they did business in school, which helps a lot, they will understand you need working capital, you need this. Because like some of the failures I've had, even in the US, were like not understanding the use of working capital. So you start making some money, you get excited, you increase assets.
Right.
That's the overextension you're talking about. Yeah. You increase assets and then all of a sudden you don't have enough working capital to actually maintain the business to run, to even make a profit. And most businesses take like 3 years to start getting profitable.
Right.
Most Ugandans don't have that time.
Okay.
Or most Africans. They're looking at the business as in 3 months or 4 months, I want to be turning a profit. Almost. You get what I mean? Because business is just like rudimentary. You see, business, the easiest way to do business is add and subtract. If you understand money, you go into business. But there's so many other aspects around business that people learn professionally in the US that this person will have to learn the hard way, which is starting many businesses. They die, they do what? You get what I mean? That's what happens.
No, good point. Let me ask Agaba, because we're talking about, I'm just going to be honest, right? We're talking about like finding somebody like Joe Nita and some of my people. It was your position that I was lucky in certain aspects.
Yeah.
Lucky. Now explain that. Because we want to help the crowd today, so community.
Okay, here's the thing. Let me make a remark on the previous point and then I'll come back to this.
Yes.
So I think another distinction that needs to be very clearly understood about somebody who's going to take the time, effort, and willingness to enter a market that is foreign to them. You're not coming in to just be another one of. You're coming in to be the best.
Right.
Of. So I think there's also that element of, like you said, you're seeking the opportunity, you're doubling down on the opportunity within the same category as opposed to sprinkling seeds all over the place and seeing what grows.
Right.
So now when it comes to how that translates to your good fortune in having been able to recruit and develop the team that you have, somebody outstanding like Jonita Maya and somebody like Rachel, your general manager, right? And so many other individuals, these young men who are sitting back here in a technical supporting capacity, the producers and the editors and whatnot. I think Joan is like a unicorn to me.
Okay.
Because for her, she's not a specialist, right? Tati, Enoch, Brivian, these guys are specialists, right? They have a technical skill set that can be applied in a very specific way to the benefit of this business.
Yep.
And by aligning themselves with someone like you who aspires to be the greatest of all time, they have the opportunity to grow, develop, and uplift themselves. And when they go away from here, when they graduate from the Kanganda University of, this business, they have the opportunity to now be that much more successful in their own right. Eventually it'll happen, right?
Yep.
I see the way you're looking at me and you're like, yeah.
You better not go nowhere.
Right? But you get my point, right? So these guys who are specialists have come up because you have an exacting eye for quality. You have a very clear and intricate system by which you want this business to run. Reason why I'm saying for someone like Joan, you're lucky. I'm not going to say you're lucky about all these niggas. Because the value for them is very clear. Right? There's also a value exchange in understanding, is my opportunity to succeed in this career path that I've chosen better within this system than in anywhere else that I could be working. Right? So these guys are clearly benefiting equally from their association with you, and working with you.
Okay.
If not exponentially more.
Okay.
Right? As has been demonstrated by your willingness to support their growth and development through the investments that you make. Joan is a unicorn in that she's a well-rounded individual who has a talent skill set that is multifaceted and dynamic. And her willingness and her capability to give of herself in service of growing your business goes above and beyond what the average person in her position would be willing to do.
That's true.
And so when I say you're lucky, it's because she is to me one of the few individuals who have that character within them, who are willing to invest their time and effort in doing something that is not just about me.
Right.
Everybody's here. These are all transactional relationships at the end of the day.
All of them.
Right? They're your employees. They're paid employees. So to a degree, these relationships are transactional. But there's also a familial bond that has been developed because of the fact that she cares.
Right.
And to get somebody who cares the way that she does is where you're lucky.
Okay. Let me just say this. Now, I it's very well put together. I kind of want to defend the talent pool of the country because when I hear so many people
can be talented and selfish at the same time.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, but he's talking about, I think, the talent.
The talent pool that I hear, let me not limit it to Uganda. But since I'm living in Uganda, I will just use Uganda as an example. A lot of African entrepreneurs say it's hard for employees to be trusted. They're not this or they're not that. And then I do hear like, okay, you as an individual are lucky. And then when I look at these entrepreneurs that have that, those statements or whatever, again, I come back to how much time do you spend on that particular business you're trying to source for? Now, it can happen. We've had people that have had horrible experiences hiring and people like that. But I would say that the way maybe we have learned in the United States, when we depend on talent, I think that, and I might get in trouble, I think that some of the brothers that come from Africa, when they go abroad and they come back here, there is an extreme sense of entitlement from them towards employees here. And how they treat. Now, I don't want to really put that out there, but that's what I see. It's like, you should be happy I'm talking to you. You should be happy you work for me. You should be happy, whatever.
The boss mentality.
I see it. Like, for example, that we had a shoot the other day at 6 a.m. Tati was taking the things out. I was taking the generator down, everything down. I carry stuff like anybody else. But, he and you would always hear like, Ugandan boss will never do that, or Kenyan boss will never do that. And so I see that there is not a whole lot of development from the business. It's kind of like not talking to someone, but talking at them. And I think that the level of training that even the people, let me say also, because the people who develop the best businesses that I've seen are actually the Ugandans who have stayed here and figured out the market. Whenever you tell me about somebody that does really good, like the PG guy, I won't mention the name, but there's a guy that stayed here. He did very well.
Yep.
Those of us who come back let's say in the Ugandan community, our brothers and sisters there, I don't think they have spent the time in developing the talent that they need to make the business successful. And then what happens is the blame is on the talent pool and not on the entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur's ability to not be overextended and to understand what. So then they kind of say, well, then that talent pool is no good. They lie, they steal, they cheat. Yeah, we've dealt with that too. But then there's also ways that I try to deal with, because remember, we're blacks. And it all comes back to thinking what the black mind is. Okay, you knew this person might not be like that. They're going to need some time. Because in America, I told my team, all of you would have been fired at least once or twice. But because we known what we're up against, I had to grow, they had to grow, and things like that. And you don't really see that patience in developing of the employees from, I would say, a lot of the Africans in the diaspora, even some of the African Americans that come here. Then what you hear is when you do get a good business is, oh, well, the business is lucky. You selected some lucky talent. No, it's just, I've been dealing with these people for years and years and years and years, when if you had that person, you might have fired him. There's a big prominent YouTuber, I won't name him, that had one of our editors.
Yep.
He fired the guy within 3 weeks. He went to another prominent YouTuber. They fired him within 2 weeks. He came to us. He had some problems. That guy's killing it now.
But you were willing to teach him and develop him.
Let me just say this. It is our job, those of us who have been exposed, to train our group.
Thank you very much.
That's what it is, okay?
Thank you.
We want to blame, when you have the ability to go to St. Thomas and Penn State School of Business and medical school, they have a group in New York City that broke off from the Nation of Islam called the 5% Nation. Mm-hmm. And their whole theory is, nation of gods on earth, only 5% have the knowledge. Now, when you have the knowledge as us, who's supposed to be the ones to teach the people? That's our job.
Thank you very
when
much.
we come here and then we say, well, they steal, they lie. Well, we knew they were going to do that. That's what they're supposed to do, right? And then we blame the talent pool for not being developed, but when they go to Dubai, they develop. Yeah. When they go to Qatar, they develop.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with something's wrong with us, because the responsibility is on us. Class here.
Let's not go to Dubai. Dubai is too far. If you ever see a Ugandan working for an Indian,
whoa, that's
it's
true.
a whole different ball game. But when they work for you, there's certain laxities. Now, I will echo what you're saying.
Yes.
We need to develop the people.
Yes.
I'm one of those people who believes that I have a certain privilege. As I said, we've gone to University of St. Thomas. You did med school. You made
and the guy went to top 50 MBA program.
Yeah.
He's smarter than me.
So
he had said a word the other day. I didn't know what that word was. I was like, what was the word you used?
But
you
sometimes
used the word that was talking about. It's it's a word that's used for very forgiving, very apologetic. What is it?
I can't remember, but it's a good one.
It was a good word. Yeah,
it was a good one.
So what I was saying is, I kept having failures in my businesses also, because I would say I was blaming the talent also.
Right.
But sometimes it takes time to develop people. With my housing project thing, one, it's a vision. It's a passion that I have that I want to work on and finish and what. So I've worked on it for 4 years now. Mm-hmm. But in those 4 years, majority of the time has actually been developing machines and developing the talent.
Let's show the pictures of what you do in the background while we're talking about that.
You can show the houses that we use interlocking bricks to build with. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, I realized that there was a big gap between what I was trying to tell them to do and what they could do. And it took me a while to understand that, because I'll tell the guy, I want you to make the brick like this. This is the brick it's making. And I think I've explained everything. I come back and the guy is not even halfway to what I've. So eventually I was like, I have to get in myself and then do it with them. Every day I spent a month in Katwe. Katwe is a place where guys build machines and things like that. And we eventually built the machine. We built that machine, but I had to put in that time. Most times we do the boss mentality of, the machine is like this, I pay you, then I leave, then I come back. But now when I realized that, I started training my employees. That's why even we did the prototype house and things like that. So that I don't send them out there and they're doing bad work or something. And then I say, you did this and that, because it's a new concept.
Right.
And most times, many of the people we hire, they're learning these things from scratch. We've been advantageous that we know how to operate a TV well. We know how to search the internet. We know how to search knowledge and become better. And these are people like usually they've not had the same opportunities we've had. They've not been that exposed. So for them to do the work that you're asking them to do to the satisfaction of you sometimes may not be possible unless you take time to develop that.
And can we say this before we go to Gaba? A lot of the brothers in the African diaspora that have lived abroad have done well. They're not coming back here to suffer like that. I'm gonna be real.
Nope.
We gotta be honest. Hold on, let me say this. I feel like a lot of the brothers that have went to America, had to work their ass off, go to college, they saved up a lot of money. When they come back to Uganda, listen, I'm going back to my home. I'm not dealing with this bullshit.
No, I agree with you completely.
That's how I also came back, kind of.
I agree with you completely. And here's the thing. You mentioned it's a boss mentality, right? There's a clear distinction between being a boss and a leader. Clear distinction between being a boss and a leader. Another thing is, a lot of people who happen to be invested in multiple businesses, maybe they have acquired a measure of success in one area, and they have the arrogance to believe that because I'm successful at this, I can invest in 1, 2, 3 other things. Those are called vanity businesses, right? A guy is successful in the financial field. He makes a lot of money over here, right? And then he decides that he wants to go and open up a hotel, build a hotel, open up a bar. You don't know a damn thing about hospitality.
Right.
Yet you've decided that you want to hire a whole bunch of employees to put them in charge of this very expensive asset that you've invested to build, and you're expecting it to be a profitable enterprise?
Yeah.
Come on. That's foolishness.
Right.
So I think a lot of that mentality is now where one meets the other.
Yes.
So when you have an individual who has those values, who's looking for an opportunity, who's willing to put something of herself into helping her employer build an enterprise that he translates means more to me than just a vanity play. This is my legacy.
Right.
And I'm here on the ground, in the mud, in the trenches with you every day. That's when those values interlock. And that's when those values create the cohesion that you have within this team here. And I'm sure that's the same cohesion that you're building with your team in your construction business, because when you invest your time and effort to be on the ground, in the mud with them, getting it out the mud, and you show them that my success is reliant upon your commitment, but I'm equally committed to being here with you and figuring it out as we go along. That's very different than having a guy who pulls up in his expensive whip, shows up for the vanity of being looked at the boss, comes and look at a book of accounts once every 2-3 days. You know what I mean? And then he beats it because he's got a date with his side chick.
Let me just let me just say this. Because I think this is a good conversation, because it shows the problems that both of us have coming from the diaspora, even in the Ugandan community. I don't think anybody's talking about this right now.
Right.
I doubt it.
First of all, you're going to be in the trenches. This is nothing but the trenches.
Yes.
And I said that we had a meeting that you were the guest speaker at the last time we had it. And the last thing, and he did a great job. Magaba consults. He consults Kinganda. He helped us with our Kinganda experience. And I would suggest, for business things, Jonita and Agaba are the best people that you can go to. But my speech at the last thing was, this is war. We're in the trenches.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're not going to be in the trenches, everybody, what I tell them to do. What I tell them to get out.
Get out.
Leave.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we got to understand that this is, not only are we feeling war, let me say about the Uganda talent pool before I turn it back. So many of the African brothers and sisters in Uganda, I have to convince them that they can do something because their self-esteem is so low and beat. They don't even feel that they can do it. What do you mean you can't do it?
Thank you. That thing
What do you mean you
bothers
can't do
me
it?
so much.
And see, and then one thing that the whites and the Indians and the Asians will never do is encourage the brothers and sisters here, which is not their job. That's our job. You can do X, Y, and Z. You can step into this. You can own this. I tell all my guys at the camera, you better own what you got. You better buy what you got. But they don't. But people here are not being taught that. So the talent pool don't know what they have. But these other groups know what they have. While the Asians is coming here buying up everything, while the Chinese is coming, they know that they can do it, because if they felt that Ugandans could not do the work, they would not invest their money here. They wouldn't do it. So the talent pool has to be there. What are we doing with the talent pool that benefits them as it benefits us to build this country, or to build Africa, to build the community? So if we're not thinking like that, we're not gonna have it.
For personally, let me just give a simple background.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved back in 2017, I went to the US and drove for like a whole year nonstop.
Driving trucks, huh?
Yeah. And all the money I was making then was I want to invest in bonds. I don't want to invest any more business in Uganda. Like I'm going home. And,
Ugandan bonds.
Yes. Yeah, in Ugandan bonds. I'd kind of learned about the bonds and what. Then I even moved my money into fixed deposit and stuff like that. So I used to get paid every month. I had a good deal with the bank that I was whatever. And it was enough money for me to live a very comfortable life in Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
The issue though is the reason why it pushed me there is because I was like afraid of investment in Uganda anymore to a degree. But then when COVID happened, that's when I saw, I'm like, yo, I think I'm just sitting on my privilege and something, because people then now didn't have jobs. You started seeing how it's like you're a talent wasting away. In a way. For me now, that's what pushed me. And my focus is let me work on my passion. You see, I had all those businesses, the travel thing, that's also a passion, but I had already started it. Now, the biggest thing that I had going was housing. I have to invest in something that people need. Sometimes even when we do businesses in Uganda, the target market is usually the biggest problem because we think that you, my friend, and what are going to be my customers. But when we come to your shop, the first thing we want is a discount. Yet we've come to support you.
Right.
You get what I mean?
A guy told me one time, somebody wanted him to come to a meeting to consult them, and then the bill came and the dude wanted you to pay for it.
Yeah. Like, bro, you call me to give you information and then you want me to pay for the bill?
So, but the whole, there's that whole thing, and it translates, it starts affecting the way the businesses are run,
Right.
most especially with the market. You see, when you see the Chinese Indians, first of all, when they come here, they don't have relations with anyone.
Right.
These are immigrants. It's like the Somalis. Have you seen the Somalis?
Yes,
and businesses?
even in Kenya.
You get what
They're
I
even
mean?
bigger in Kenya.
They don't have.
They own all the parklands now.
I like to call it the immigrant mentality.
Right.
It's do or die kind of thing.
Right.
So they kind of have certain culture that is gonna push them.
Right.
Versus you, whereby if the business fails,
You have a backup.
there's a backup, and
Right.
there's something like that. You get what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of business is done in a rudimentary way.
Right.
You get what I mean? We do so many things, and we think that when it works now,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna keep working. Tomorrow, the day after, and once things start changing politically or tax-wise,
Right.
it's hard to adapt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then boom, the business is
It's
gone
done.
and something like that. So personally, I look at like the Mandelas. Mandela is a Somali guy who grew up in Uganda. Or he owns a couple
Cafe
of
Javas,
businesses
right?
in Uganda. Cafe Javas,
Yeah.
City Tires, and all that stuff. When you look at his
Supreme
story, how we
Flour.
started, it's like you see how he has multiple businesses,
Yeah.
but they're under one thing.
Right.
Usually what ends up happening is you will start a business, it will fail. You start another and it will fail. Then later there's knowledge you've collected from all of them. Like, so if I start here, I'll do this and that, and I'll have this happen. You get what I mean? And usually you've learned from those mistakes, and that's how you're going to run them. But majority of us, once the first businesses fail, that's the end of it.
You guys
They're out. I've failed many times with my partners too.
Oh yeah.
And that's the school fees we pay. I call it school fees. That's the tuition you
Yeah.
gotta pay.
School of hard knocks. as they say in the
Exactly.
States.
You gotta go through. I feel like you have to go through
got
that.
that, yeah.
And you get to the point where like, okay, now I can't afford to have this. There's a time when I couldn't fire certain people because I was like, you know what? Where's this kid gonna go? Blah, blah, blah. But now when stuff is tight and what, you start getting into that position of like, you're not part of the dream team or whatever. You're not thinking that whole thing of being in the trenches with them. Then you're like, I'm sorry, you gotta go. And that kind of mentality has to kick in. But it usually comes when you've been pushed.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this episode, we're just talking with our friends. You guys have really given excellent points. And one thing that I think Gabs touched on and O'Shea was when you come here, you have to come as the best of the best. And we have seen people come from the diaspora to Uganda and then set up businesses that a normal Ugandan can set up. Let me give an example. It's like you're coming from the diaspora with all this knowledge, all this exposure. To us, we see it as you have all this privilege, and then you come here and set up a boutique. No offense to boutique owners. No offense to
I get it.
No offense to boutique
But I
owners.
know,
But
yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah.
I'm trying
Should be
to
more.
show
Should be
you.
more advanced. You know.
Yeah, more advanced, like filling a gap somewhere. Because
Right.
if I'm competing with you as someone from the diaspora, and then you just start up a business that someone elsewhere can just start up, I'm just like, okay, where's the
Right.
advantage? Like, where's what you've brought?
Yeah.
You went that
You
side.
didn't learn anything.
Exactly. It's like, what can you teach us here? What can you give back to the community to develop the community, instead of you being, now you're part of the problem, because they're trying to get rid of, well, no, they're not
Your-
trying to
your-
get
your
rid of boutiques.
competition.
Yeah.
That's also what the Chinese are being blamed for right now, is
Yeah.
competing for the same markets as the Ugandans have.
Yeah, especially the investors in
Indians.
Chikubo.
Yeah.
Because before you'd never see a Chinese in Chikubo. You'd only see like wholesalers, Ugandans buying from the Chinese. But now the Chinese are where the Ugandans are. So now it's just like they're competing with each other. I think my point is, and you can correct me in the comment section, and I say this with love, you can start whatever business you want to start. It just perturbs us. Like, it's like you have all this, you have all this at your
Disposal.
yeah, it's like you could do something with it. Like, don't waste all the time
I
and
don't
effort
blame
you
them.
put into it.
You don't blame.
I don't blame
Please
people
do
who
tell,
think
because
like
maybe
that.
I'm judging.
But it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier. When you think about why people from the diaspora don't succeed here, when you come looking for low-hanging fruit, the slightest struggle, you'll quit and you'll give up and you'll run. But if you come here with a notion toward being able to shift an industry or introduce an innovation that's going to create so much value, and something that's going to build legacy, like, if you're not coming here for that type of a reason, stay there.
I would say so.
That's how I feel about it.
I would kind of say the same thing, because if you're coming from out there, in my opinion, having done all those businesses you've said,
yeah,
I brought secondhand clothes or whatever you may call it.
yeah,
But if you're coming here with that, whatever, the people who have been in the business here are going to outcompete you.
Absolutely.
majority of
They're
the
gonna
time.
cream you.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they've had that experience that you don't have. So when you come from there to come here, you better be going outside the norm.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you have to kind of put in a lot of time and what. The whole thing of like me and the housing, I was just like, everyone was like, but these bricks, the market may not take it, this and that. But I'm like, Americans build with wood. For 1 month, you enter a house, it's parts. You get what I mean?
And wind blows.
Why
and that
can't
shit
I
falls
do
down.
that here? Yes, it may take time for people to adapt to it.
Yeah.
But I know there's a market segment that cannot afford to build the way we build now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get what I mean? And that market segment will either be created or it will come about and things will happen that way. So I kind of feel like if you're coming from abroad, I don't think you should do the same thing people are really doing here, because they are going to outcompete you.
Yeah.
That's right.
They are going to beat you in that game.
Yeah. My main
beat your ass too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
My-
not gonna be pretty.
my pet peeve would be like, because you have access to all these sites, you're buying things off Shein and then putting a profit. It's just like, no offense, but no.
And let me just say
Do
this.
better.
Fashion Nova.
The like even starting this the podcast that we have, I don't know, King Ghana took like 5 years. One that the opportunity wasn't there, but it took us a while to just keep trying every day. I had every reason to quit. In fact, we did quit for like 6 months at one point. Then we quit for another year.
Yep.
We quit King Ghana for, I think by the time I had met Gabs on the way to Rwanda, King Ghana was dead.
Yeah.
King Ghana was dead. We might post one video a month, something like that. But like as they say in the Black community, we got two sayings: keep on keeping on, and I don't feel no ways tired.
Yeah.
So if you're
That's
gonna,
the first time I had that one.
yeah, that's actually a song. Those businesses, the Kafundas, those other businesses close. Okay, I understand. No, they have markets for those. I think what Africa needs for develop is game changers. People want to translate an industry. Like those people might want to bring like Silicon Valley somewhat into Uganda, Ginger somewhere or something like that, or content creation studios or certain levels of manufacturing that's not, those high level skills that take a country out of poverty. That's what we really need. We need our people here to use their talents in order to tell their story in some kind of way, whether scientifically or whatever, to solve problems. And we need those kind of people who want to seek the opportunity. Now, you don't know when it's going to happen or occur. but we need opportunity entrepreneurs. The ones where you see guys that are, they have. I'm not a big fan. Again, I know I have a different way of doing business, and people can do it different ways. I'm not a big fan of the guy who spreads himself between 4 or 5 different industries. That's not me. I feel like you can't hire or train because you probably don't know any of those very strong. Even if you're in agriculture, guys who have pork, pigs, they have lambs, they have poultry. I don't think those guys can do things very well either. And they're in the same agriculture industry. That might be just me.
But here's the thing, though. Usually when you get into those industries, you see the chain and you can do it better. And usually the profit margins are small. So you tend to like scale up. I have a friend, he owns a farm.
Okay.
He does pigs. So when they'll do the pigs, they've put in all this work. People who come to buy them are giving them very little money. The money can't come out. So what does he do? He sets up a bar and grill place. He had done a restaurant before.
But that's still in the same kind of industry because he can still take his meat and try to sell it higher.
Yeah, so usually if it's a linear kind of thing like that, usually it will work.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
out.
about somebody who's in something completely different.
Yeah.
And I see too many African owners that are going into debt, like vanity style businesses. They don't really know. They can't impact. So how are you gonna, as a foreigner, when I come here, I don't even know how to even do that. I don't even try to do that. I try to do the one thing that I know
that brought you here.
That's it. And I try to figure that out. So in that way, I think foreigners have an advantage because, all right, if you get through the culture, I know there's a culture of business and all that. But once you get to getting the people around you, over time, you're going to find somebody good and decent. And then that person will train somebody else. Like now, I don't know how to edit. But if somebody comes in off the streets that don't know how to edit, they want to learn how to edit. We had it with Agre and other people. Now one of our best editors is somebody who didn't even know how to edit 2 years ago. But you can give him anything. But this is a guy who didn't know how to turn a computer on. But
investing in your people.
Wow.
It's the same thing that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, every country that's doing well does that. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
No, I'm saying thank you so much. This was
Time
beautiful.
to go.
No,
Yeah.
but you can complete what you're saying, Oshi.
No. I just think that, investing into the most valuable thing that the country has is your people. Singapore showed us that with no natural resources. Rwanda's showing us that now. That if you have the people, that's what you need.
Yeah.
So that's all. And I think I know the people are here.
Yeah.
Uganda has just as much talent as any other nation on planet Earth. They can swing the bat. And I think that it's unfair that Ugandans get blamed as a talent pool for being, incompetent or whatever. Of course, that's going to happen with people. But if you teach them not to do that, and if those who don't, they'll learn and they'll get fired. And those who will stay will change the business. Ultimately, the people who give you the hardest problems can be the person that changes the business for you in ways that you couldn't see. And we don't give the opportunity to do that because we cut their water off too fast.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Brian, for the people who want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at BM Osende. My company is called Tafari Group with Tafari Engineering and Tafari Safaris.
Yeah.
So you can find me at BM Osende.
Yeah.
That's my personal. Then Tafari Safaris on Twitter too, YouTube and everywhere else. And then also for the engineering, Tafari Engineering. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. And Gabs, where can they find you?
Follow me at Master Gabs on all platforms. Check out Allergic to Average. It's no longer called a podcast, by the way. This is an entirely new platform that we're redesigning. So check out some new stuff coming out from Allergic to Average soon.
Make sure you guys check it out. And you can
don't follow me.
I did.
Hey.
Let me ask. And you can follow us on all our social media platforms at King and the Nation. Follow me at Jonita Maya. We'll see you guys next time.